Imagine this, two mates who turned their love of beer into a business.
If you've got a great idea and the motivation behind you, you can start making those baby steps, but it is still a lot of hard work.
The ingredient that's now being made in New Zealand for the first time.
Freshness is key. So having a producer just up the road means that your beer is getting the best possible starting point.
Kia ora, I'm Jahan Casanada, and welcome to Imagine This, a podcast about brilliant people who are doing awesome stuff right here in Wellington. My guests today are the founders of Froth Technologies, Ryan Carville and Simon Cooke. Welcome, guys.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe.
Ryan, what is it about yeast? How have you built a whole business around yeast?
Well, I guess it all started because of our passion for beer and brewing, and yeast plays an incredibly crucial role in that. It's arguably the most important ingredient in brewing for flavour production. Obviously, most people know that it produces alcohol and carbon dioxide, which makes the beer fizzy, but it's a massive determinant of quality of beer as well.
But we haven't historically made yeast for beer in New Zealand.
That's correct. Yeah. Up until, very recently when Froth came along, all of the yeast pretty much was coming in from overseas, which was something we didn't realise really or recognise until, we started with this idea of kind of doing our own brewery and looking at how we could do that sustainably. And local ingredients was, obviously a massive part of that. And we recognised that, there was no one making yeast in Aotearoa.
And how did you realise that?
I think from working in the brewing industry, we started to sort of envision how we could work together. We've been mates since high school. We've brewed a lot of beers, both at home and then in commercial breweries. And so in starting to knock our heads together and think, could we get into business together? What does that look like? The horizon was quite broad at that point. And so we started to hone in on what does sustainable brewing look like. Local ingredients is a big one. We've already got world-class malt and hops grown right here. And I mean, beer is such an agricultural product. It really relies on the earth, the soil, and the crops to come into existence. And so we just saw a bit of a gap in the market there, the missing piece of the puzzle, if you will. And I suppose that was our eureka moment when we said, could we do that?
So what's the problem with bringing in yeast from overseas?
Sure. So yeast is a living organism, and as such, it's perishable. It also has a quite sort of stringent set of storage conditions, which, if those aren't abided by, the health of the yeast will deteriorate very rapidly. So the big challenge there is getting yeast in its liquid form from, say, the States or Europe. Firstly, it's expensive because you've got to have it on refrigerated air freight. It's got to be shipped quickly and it's got to be shipped within those refrigerated conditions. So, those two things, the price and the storage conditions, really make it difficult. Little hold-ups in customs, which have happened before, or it being left out in the sun for a short period of time, means that once the yeast gets to a brewery, it's not in its best condition.
So it's not just about that nice touchy-feely thing of saying, this ingredient's come from New Zealand or it's come from Wellington. It actually has a meaningful impact on the quality of the product.
Absolutely. Being a living organism, freshness is key. So having a producer just up the road, meaning you can get yeast as fresh as possible, means that your beer is getting the best possible starting point.
So you guys had been mates for quite a long time, since high school.
Yeah, we went to high school together and got up to all kinds of mischief and trouble and creative exploration. And then we actually found ourselves in a flat together during university. Ryan was at Victoria University and myself at Massey. I was studying graphic design and Ryan was philosophy and religious studies. Is that right?
Wow.
So it was a clear path to a biotech startup, for sure.
Yeah, so different from what you're doing now. So did you ever sit around in your flat at night and say, hey, we've known each other for a while, we could go into business together at some point?
At that point, it was there was a bit of a pursuit of flavour happening. We were always sort of fairly crafty and creative in the kitchen, baking bread, making fermented foods, and naturally, being students, brewing some booze came along. We started brewing all kinds of weird and wonderful brews, some of them great, some of them not so great. I think we won a bronze medal at the National Homebrew Competition.
Wow.
And around that time, I started the Massey University Brewing Society because my mates kept pestering me, asking, will you show me how to brew some beer?
I'm really interested in what makes people go from hobbyists, doing something that they enjoy at their kitchen table, as you guys were, to converting that into a business, because there's a big gap there. What made you interested in commercializing what you were doing?
Well, I think for me, my first, step at that was going from home brewing as a hobby into brewing commercially. And my main justification for that at the time was that I was spending all of my time outside of work brewing. So I thought, well, maybe I can kind of combine these two things and make that work on a commercial scale. But I think it was when we sort of recognised the gap in the market and saw that there was actually a potential viable commercial output for this idea that we had that really led us to take those extra steps and investigate further and eventually found the company.
Were you confident when you started Froth that this was going to lead somewhere?
It was certainly something we worked to really validate and build our confidence in. So when we started, it was just an idea, and we were very conscious of not assuming that our idea was the great idea or the perfect idea and that it would automatically translate into success. So we really intentionally went out and engaged with the brewing industry, which we were lucky to know a lot of folks within because of our history of working there. And we spent a good few months doing quite detailed market research, so calling up brewers, holding focus groups, and really engaging and getting that feedback from them about, A, would a yeast supplier in Aotearoa be a good idea, and B, what would you like to see from them?
So you did your homework?
We did our homework, yeah. We've really tried to sort of validate our assumptions at every stage before taking any big steps.
We were prepared to be wrong on that front. I suppose if the answers were no, or it wasn't sounding very good, we would have bailed out and tried something else. So
what was the response that you got from people back then?
I suppose there was layers and layers of yeses. Obviously, your friends and whānau are naturally going to be the first ones to offer their support. Going a step further to brewers and industry and saying, is this something that you would like? By that point, we were pretty much ready to push go and we're looking at leases on TradeMe. But thankfully, we had some more grounded advisors who said, hang on, guys. Yes, they've said they want that and they would buy it. Can you prove it? And so that's when we started, I suppose, prototyping it at a small scale. And we rented a small commercial kitchen here in Wellington after hours so that we could make a little bit of yeast at a time, get those little samples to breweries and say, how did it go? Did you like it? Did it make good beer? And would you buy it again and for how much? Because those are all also key metrics for the business to be viable.
So it sounds like you were really methodical about that process. What were some of the obstacles in the early part of this journey?
I guess the big obstacle that we faced was that we hadn't grown yeast on a commercial scale before. We don't have a microbiology background. And the other, I guess, big challenge was that because no one else had done it here before, there was no one to look at to kind of go, how have you done it? What lessons have you learned? What should we avoid doing?
Yeah.
So that really, explorative phase of just figuring things out on our own, there was a lot of challenges there, but we managed to put our heads together and really knuckle down and figure out some pretty difficult problems and challenges.
Did you have any knockbacks?
Yeah, for sure. I think the first batch of yeast that we produced in our current facility on our much larger plant and equipment, we were expecting a significant yield of very healthy yeast, and upscaling our operation from the small pilot plant to the larger scale stuff didn't directly translate. And so when we went to harvest our yeast, we got a very small amount of very dead yeast, which was certainly a bit of a knock to the pride and the expectations. But we learnt from that. We figured out what went wrong, and we were able to grow the next batch successfully.
What was it like when you started to see the reactions from the people that you were supplying this to? That must have been pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it certainly has been. I guess our aim in getting this yeast out there as a local product was hopefully this is going to be the same, if not better. And with the locality, the freshness, the availability, in a lot of cases we're seeing brewers go, wow, this is better than the yeast I've been using. That it's detectable in the glass. And, a brewer or a judge might be able to tell you what off flavours are missing and what flavour compounds are shining through. But, at the pub, when it comes down to your average beer drinker, it might just be the difference between tasting something and going, oh, not so into that one, try the next one. Oh, wow, that is a really good beer. They don't need to know why. All they need to know is it's just singing and dancing on their tongue. And, yeah, that feels pretty good to see that shine through, to see the proof in the pudding, and even to see some of our brewing customers winning awards and medals.
So how did the business start to take off once you had those initial fans on board?
It took a bit of time. It wasn't a massive kind of influx. It's been kind of gradual and organic growth. So we had some early adopters come on board, which was fantastic. They sort of gave the new guys in town a try, and they were happy with the results. So I guess they helped us to de-risk it for those kind of clients further down the track. It's just been a process of gradual growth, I guess, as brewers have seen the beers that are coming out, have heard from other brewers. That's the big thing, I think, for us. We can sing from the treetops as much as we want about how great our product is, but when brewers hear it from other brewers, that it's made their product better, their lives easier at work, and things like that, I think that's really helped us. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's almost like you had two separate challenges. You had the scientific challenges around the product and making that work, and then you were starting a business and learning how to do that. So how did you wrap your heads around how to create a business from scratch?
It's definitely a lot of steep learning curves.
Yeah.
We were quite, again, I think we had an approach of recognizing what we didn't know and really going out to seek advice and support on those things. So we've had a lot of different mentors from some kind of different parts of various industries and various experience, and we've managed to gain a lot of advice, a lot of pause. Let's think about this.
Do you just bail those people up, or how did you find them?
We've had a mentor from Business Mentors NZ.
That's right.
Where you can sort of pay a small fee and be paired up with someone who's been there, done that. We've also had some mentor support from Wellington NZ through the online portal there for capability building. And then, of course, friends and whānau, networking. Sometimes you go to an event, of which there's plenty of them in Wellington for the startup community, pitching nights. Those are great opportunities to meet someone, and when they ask, so what do you do? A little light bulb can pop up and go, have you talked to so-and-so? Because they know heaps about that.
Kiwis can be pretty reluctant to put themselves out there, though. Have you had to learn how to become more comfortable with knocking on doors, asking people for help, asking for people's advice?
Yeah, definitely. We did a crowdfunding campaign a couple of years ago now, and that entailed a lot of that. Calling up, I think some of the advice we got on that crowdfunding campaign was make a list of your top 50 people you're going to get in touch with and ask for money.
Which is so hard.
It is very hard. I'm calling up old family friends and old teachers going, you've got to spare $20 to chuck in. But I guess that's just something that you had to get comfortable with the end goal in sight.
And the advice we got there as well was start by asking for advice, because if you ask for money, you get
advice.
And if you ask for advice, you get money. So the calls...
Oh, really? I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, so the calls would usually start with, hey, we're about to launch our crowdfunding campaign, and I'm just trying to see how it lands for people like you, because we're trying to attract people like you to it. could you take a look, see how it looks, see how it feels, see if the rewards there are appealing to you? And yeah, it's not really an ask for money at that point, but they take a look at it and go, hey, that looks really great, really exciting. Great to have a look at it. Do let me know when it's live, because I'd love to chip in. And so it kind of becomes their idea, and you get some good feedback at the same time.
What does it mean to have an entrepreneurial mindset?
I think it's the willingness to take risks, the curiosity to explore ideas, and you don't have to have an idea right away. It's the desire to find something new. And so you can fertilize that desire simply on your own or with friends, whānau. Have an idea session and just blurt it out. What do we need? What do people want? What about this? And no idea is a bad idea. Just get them out there, and something might just one day jump up at you. But if you're not being as active as that, maybe you're sort of in a too dormant stage. But if you set time aside for like creative brainstorming, something might just pop up. And some people are better ideas people. They do sort of dream those things up more readily. And then others are better supporters, and they really want to just get in behind a great idea and help make it happen. And that's what makes a team.
What makes you guys a great team?
I think together we both bring two different flavors of awesomeness. Like we're complementary. Ryan is more attention to detail, systems. He's got a lot more of that brewery production skills on the tools behind him than I do. I'm more of the creative type, so branding and marketing and things like that. And we sort of meet in the middle, and we both really passionate about the industry, those relationships, the people in it, and of course, the beer.
A lot of people say don't do business with friends or family. What has that been like?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. As Simon said, I think our job titles that we've given ourselves is left brain and right brain.
Nice.
With the idea being that, there's those two perspectives, but they form part of a kind of whole unit. And I think there's really been an acknowledgement and an understanding that we bring these different perspectives. So we might not always agree on things, but we're able to come to an agreement by discussion and, working together, putting our different perspectives together.
Do you get sick of each other?
Oh, on occasion. Nah, not really. We spend a lot of time together outside of work as well.
So your friendship hasn't suffered as a result of being business partners?
No, I think we're able to sort of put on the apron, so to speak, when we get at work and sort of be business Simon and business Ryan. But we still have sort of baked in good workplace values. Yeah. Even though it's just been us two until more recently, where we took on a lab manager. As we designed our business and from the ground up, we started to write out those core values, those ways of being, those ways of working, almost imagining that there's another seat at the table and what's it going to feel like when they land here.
That's interesting. So what are your core values?
We want to breed a culture of not just work colleagues, but sort of friendship, care, compassion, understanding that, you're spending a lot of time here at this workplace. You're putting your blood, sweat and tears into it, your heart and soul, realizing that there's a human there and they've got other things going on in their life. And so, we want to be interested in that. We want to support that. And we want to have a sense of gratitude and for what they bring to the business. So, like in our meetings together, we will typically have a check-in, and it's like not so much how you're going here in the workplace, but how are you doing, at home and like with the rest of your life. And so I think that's been a really healthy way, because so much of the Monday to Friday, our conversations are about yeast and beer and taxes and things like that. So it's really good once a month just to cut through all of that and go, but how's Ryan doing? and
how you really getting on.
how you really getting on.
That's awesome. It's quite a big deal to leave behind full-time employment to start a business. Did that feel like a big call?
Yeah, I certainly felt like it was a big call. I was working at a really awesome brewery in Wellington, Garage Project, and absolutely loved my job, was making amazing beers with a cool bunch of humans. So to take that step and kind of leave what previously I would call it, still do call a dream job, it was awesome. To do this pursuit was certainly something that I had to put a lot of consideration into and felt like a risk, but it was a risk that we'd informed. And we had and have a belief in what we're doing, and that kind of made it an easier decision to make.
So what's your advice to someone who's standing on the edge of that precipice, wondering whether to take the leap?
Hang in there as long as you can. I've definitely heard that advice echoed by fellow entrepreneurs. It's definitely good to have a bit of a safety net there, and to kind of start that side hustle in your spare time. You do need to put in a good bit of graft after hours, some late nights, and just sort of build it up behind the scenes.
Before you leap.
Before you leap, for sure. And we were kind of really lucky we were really transparent with our employers about what we were working on. And they were both really supportive of what we were doing as well, and encouraging us to work towards this awesome thing. And with the sort of support that sounded like, when you're ready to fly off and take that leap, we believe in you. And in the case of Garage Project, it was like, we're ready to get some yeast from you guys when you're ready too. So that always felt really good. And maybe that's not even really a traditional thing. Traditionally, business or employers might be a bit more guarded and say, no, you need your head down in here and only here. So no, take the leap at the last minute, so that you can back yourself and right through.
Wellington is obviously the craft beer capital of New Zealand. Did it just make sense for you to set up shop here?
Absolutely, yeah. I was actually living down in Christchurch still at the time when we were first kind of ideating this business, and we very intentionally made the decision to move up here because it's the craft beer capital and there's so much brewing innovation. There's such a density of breweries up here. So it was, and it's a pretty awesome city as well. So it made it a pretty logical decision, I think.
And how do you find doing business in this city?
Oh, we love it. It's got this beautiful creativity. It's got an appreciation of the finer things in life, like craft beer, good food. We've set up shop in our new facility in Lower Hutt in Avalon. So we're kind of sandwiched right between the inner city breweries and brew pubs, and then the bigger Brewtown brewing community in Upper Hutt. So we've got good access to those breweries, and I've just always really loved the startup and entrepreneurial spirit here. There's always a vibrancy and lots of stuff going on, and getting to hang out with those people, you feel like you're not alone. You're not the only one treading water when it might feel like that Monday to Friday. You go to one of these events and you get to see other people's great ideas, and it just feels good.
Has this been stressful?
Oh, there's definitely been, stressful times. Whether it's financially stressful or production hasn't been going to plan, or there's just a myriad of balls you're trying to juggle with a young fledgling business. It's definitely been stress.
And how do you manage your own well-being?
For me personally, I make sure I take enough time to rest. I need a lot of recharging, so I try and spend my time making sure I have good sleeps, doing exercise regularly so I can clear my head and get the endorphins pumping, pursuing other hobbies like baking and making food and things like that. So ensuring that there's still space and time for those other creative outlets.
Because I guess we hear a lot about this hustle culture and social media and the impact that has, especially on young entrepreneurs at the point in their careers that you guys are. Was that something that you were aware of, this pressure to kind of always be on, to be constantly striving for growth and bigger numbers and bigger balance sheets?
Yeah, we have certainly faced that and heard that even from some of our mentors at times. But we've sort of faced up to that with a bit of a critical lens, like, we are trying to do things different. We are trying to run a business that's sustainable, not just for the environment, but for ourselves. And so, we've certainly been told, we should be cracking on with this 24/7. We've even reduced our hours at times to just give ourselves a bit more breathing room and to sort of zoom out a bit. So no, we definitely we know that we can't run this business if we're not looking after ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to be focused on the next thing that needs to be done. Are you able to be present and actually celebrate what you've achieved?
Yeah, for sure. That's another part of our monthly catch-ups is that we go, what are we celebrating this month? Which is always good. We always, because it is tempting to get lost in the constant, perpetual kind of pace of what's going on. I think we do quite well at really taking pause and celebrating our wins.
Well, we've actually got a little totem that sits on the wall in our office. It's a brass bell. It's rather large, and it's screwed to the wall. And when we have a real win or something that we want to celebrate, anyone at any time can give that bell a ring, and we all sort of pause and hear the news and do a little fist pump. And go,
awesome.
Just take that moment to go, that was good. This is good. Good on us.
Well, if that bell was here, I would ring it and celebrate you guys coming in for this conversation today. It's been awesome to chat with you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks very much for having us.
Imagine This is brought to you by Wellington NZ. Check out more episodes right here or wherever good podcasts are found. See you next time.